What is going on, guys? It's Wednesday, and that means it's paintball question time. Questions on paintball question time. Why don't pro teams use high-end locking style pods? My thoughts on used paintball guns, and am I happy with the NXL taking over international tournament paintball? First up, Harbalke, we're gonna go with that, asks, how come pro teams only seem to use standard pods? There are all these different pods, but at events they only ever use the standard ones. So it's a little bit of a multi-tiered answer in there. First, I'm gonna say it's kind of gonna depend on sponsorship, right? So like, let's say we have AC Dallas. They're primarily using GI Sports and Empire equipment. So you're not gonna see them out there using like Virtue or HK Army pods, because like GI or Empire would like put a stop to it real quick. So they're primarily just sticking with those like normal 140 round pods that Empire's making. Obviously, that's not always the case though. There's teams that are sponsored by these companies that are making these better pods, like HK Army are sponsoring Dynasty, so Dynasty could be using the HK pods. The Ironmen obviously are sponsored by Dye, so they could be using the lock lids, or like say Tampa Bay Damage are heavily sponsored by Virtue, so they could be using the Virtue PF pods. Or FP, I always get that confused. So this is a theory I have. At least this theory fits me and most of the guys I know that play like this high-end tournament paintball stuff, so bear with me a little bit. So a lot of these pro players, even before they become pro, played a lot of paintball. It's kind of how they got good at paintball and then were able to become professional. And then along with playing a lot of paintball comes like buying paint all the time, traveling to tournaments, and just paying for a lot of stuff. And then $6 pods just don't fit into that, right? You'd much prefer that cheap $2 pod, or even better, like the ones that people are like leaving at the field. So being a broke paintball player, like back in the day before these guys were pro, dictated what pods they used then. And then now, even though they're pro and could use these nicer locking style lid pods, kind of dictated what they use now. Just because they're like used to that like normal 140 style pod. So preference isn't like the only reason, right? It also costs quite a bit more to buy these nicer pods. So all the pro teams fly to these tournaments, right? And it's just way easier to buy new pods at the actual event rather than like pack like old, dirty, or like pods that are halfway working. You can like get to the event and like buy a box of 40 for like 80 bucks. So it's just easier, right? I mean, now airlines are charging like $50 an extra bag, or sometimes $50 for your first bag. So it's just cheaper and easier to buy them at events. And buying 100 lock lids every single event is a lot of money. It's just way cheaper to get those 140 round pods. And yeah, sponsors should be, or might, or if you're lucky, yeah, they're paying for them, but it's still cheaper for them to buy those cheap 140 round pods rather than like fork out all the money for the high end ones. And they're not really like providing that big of an advantage, those locking pods over like, you know, standard 140 pods. So preference cost, a little bit of a theory on how it got to be preference though. XeVo question? Would you rather have the NXL take over NXL, NXL Europe, NXL Asia, or have all of them different like NXL, Millennium, and PALS? I personally kind of wish we'd have stayed like it was. Maybe the NXL, Millennium, PALS, and all of it just kind of be its own thing. Now we have, yeah, like NXL Asia, NXL Europe, NXL in the US, NXL Australia, like NXLs are all over the place. That's in no way like knocking the NXL though. I think they've done a really good job. And them like taking over or like buying out the Millennium series kind of had to happen. Because what I've heard is the Millennium was like going away, like they were closing doors and like not coming back. So the NXL kind of stepped in and helped save professional paintball in Europe. I really liked how we had the PSP in the US and then like the Millennium in Europe, mainly just because they were so different. I mean, we had different rates of fire, different bunkers, like venues were crazy, paint rules were different. Even the number of people allowed on the field at one time was different. And I like those differences. It just kind of keeps it interesting, keeps it exciting. Like at one point, I really wanted to go play the Millennium series because it was quite a bit different than how we played here in the US. But now it's like all the same, it's just not as exciting. I don't even think it matters. So the big reason why we were like unifying all the rules and everything was because it was gonna grow paintball. Like if we have the same rules in Asia and the same rules in Europe, it's gonna somehow make paintball get bigger. Paintball is continuing to grow because people are going out and having fun playing paintball and then like continuing to play. They're not going out for the first time, coming home, looking into pro paintball and being like, oh, the rules are different in Europe and Asia? Paintball is stupid, I'm not playing again. That is not happening. So I don't know how this rule unification thing is actually gonna help grow paintball. We need to have people have fun at paintball fields. That's how it's gonna grow. So I don't like the difference, but it's not that, I don't know. Eric Nelson asks, wondering what your thoughts are about buying used mid-range to high-end markers, eTeks, Egos, DMs, yeah. I think buying a used paintball gun is a great way to be able to get a marker that you typically couldn't afford. There are some great deals on used guns out there. You can get original Empire Axes for like $150, or even DM9s and DM10s I've seen for $200. So there are a lot of good deals out there on the cheap. When I suggest used stuff to people, I am always gonna say, go to your local paintball store first. Because when I owned a paintball store, we would like change O-rings, grease, set pressures, radar, change O-rings, change worn out parts, and it would come with a 30-day warranty. So like you knew it worked when you left the store, and if you had an issue, say that weekend, you just come back and we fix it up and it works for you and you go have fun. And I assume most paintball stores, at least all the people I know that own paintball stores, go through that same process when they're selling used stuff. And if you can't buy or they don't have something you want, there's also a lot of options on the internet, but it's good to probably start with the most trusted places. So right now, Trade My Gun has to be, well, they definitely are, the best place to buy any used paintball guns. There's also eBay, which I would say probably is not gonna have like the best stuff like Trade My Gun, but at least there's some recourse if you get like screwed over or shipped a broken gun or something like that. Right now, I would say Facebook and Paintball Nation though are gonna be the biggest places to buy anything used. So PB Nation, they have a whole section devoted to like guns and masks and tanks and all that stuff that are used. And then on Facebook, there's all kinds of very like focused selling groups. So you can find just Eclipse ones or just used tanks or just used whatever. So Facebook, PB Nation are also very good sources. So on PB Nation and Facebook, they are kind of just random people on the internet. So it's good to maybe like check around first, like ask some people if they've bought anything, or like some people have feedback threads, or you can do like a legit check on some of these buy, sell, trade threads on Facebook, and guys will post up if they've had any issues or if they've bought anything from that person. But even if you get that gun, like that person was trustworthy, if you do have little problems, you could have to pay for it to have professional service done. Unlike buying the gun from Trade My Gun or locally, where those places are gonna help take care of you. That random person on the internet might not send you like $50 or $60 to have the gun fixed. There's also kind of a problem with buying these cheap high-end guns, right? Like I said, DM9, DM10 in the beginning of this. Say you buy one of those for $200, works great for a month, and then the solenoid goes out. Solenoids are $80. So you're gonna spend $80 just on the part. But if you can't install it, maybe you gotta pay a guy $50 at the paintball store to install it. Then you're $130 into the thing when it originally cost $200. So it starts to get a little weird with some of these older higher end guns. Yeah, the guns are cheap, but the parts are still costing quite a bit of money. So I'm always suggesting with these used guns, unless you really know what you're doing, maybe don't buy something really old. Like stick with something that's like, I don't know, maybe maximum 5 years old. So at this point, yeah, like something from like 2013 or like 14 or newer. Guys, that is paintball question time. If you want your question answered on this paintball question time show, use that hashtag right up there, PBQT, wherever, you know, like you could use it on Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, Pinterest. What else is there? I guess Snapchat. Does Snapchat use hashtags? I don't know. Use that. I'll find it. We'll answer it on here. In the meantime, watch that video right there.